How's it going, YouTube? This is Copnet speaking. I hope you guys are well. Excuse me. Sorry. Well, this is going to be a very interesting video. It is something I never really bothered to talk about because I thought it was a bit of embarrassment for me, and it was just something that I just normally would not share. But I thought, since I am sharing a lot of things, it is best perhaps I should share this too. Now I know it says in the title, My Catfish Story, but you need to understand one thing. Although generally in our society, particularly the online community, catfish occurs mostly when it comes to two people having a relationship in the respect of intimacy, or in other words, a relationship. But I believe that a relationship can be intimate, but at the same time it can also be platonic or non-sexual or friend zone relationship. Because knowing someone and feeling a close bond with them is a relationship in itself, just minus the sex part. Okay, let's continue. My catfish story began at least 3 years ago, or 4 years ago. It's hard to remember. While I was fairly new to Facebook, I met a person online. Most of the people on my Facebook are mostly girls. Only a few guys. Some of them I've known from college. Some of them are family friends. And others I feel are basically good people by their mannerisms and by their behavior. I don't just add anyone on my Facebook. It has a relatively small number of people. This guy I added at the time. I'm going to give you his nickname. I'm not going to give you his actual name. Aiden. He had pictures of himself. They looked pretty nice. And before anyone jumps ahead, he wasn't a love interest. He was just a friend, a brother figure, because according to him in his profile, he was gay. Interested in guys, as you know. So, yeah, he was very friendly, nice, cheery, the type of person that would tag you in a lot of photos and share nice songs, and he was basically very funny. So for the first year, he and I, Aiden and myself, plus several others, would just talk on Facebook and just basically get to know each other. But then after that, that was then from Facebook conversations, we eventually went off to texting conversations, and then eventually that led to telephone conversations. The telephone conversation was basically due to the fact that he was really upset because his boyfriend wasn't really responding to him or talking to him. Aiden kept continuously complaining to me that his boyfriend Jim just wasn't talking to him anymore, etc., etc., and he couldn't get a hold of Jim. So I'm like, you call me, Aiden. Let's talk about it. I know how upset you are, cause I was getting divorced, etc., etc., or going through the start of it. We were hunting my ex-husband down at the time, couldn't find him at the time. So I knew what it was like to lose someone you love. And for all those homophobes of you out there who's just saying, rolling their eyes, shut the fuck up and get off. I believe that everyone has the right to love. Man to man, woman to woman, boy to girl, transgender to such, and etc. So get over it. Anyway, so from then on, Aiden and I got to know each other even further. Nice guy. Really nice guy. He'd make me laugh, he'd talk. He'd call me once in a while. He'd call me like once every 3 days, 4 days, etc., and we'd chat. We talked basically as if we were both sisters. And as we know, most people from the gay society tend to be very easy to talk to and talk over a multitude of things. Aiden was not the really buff kind or masculine kind, but more laid to the feminine type of... More was on the feminine side of the gay spectrum, being interested in makeup and gourmet cooking and gentle songs, etc., etc. And I was cool with that. So he would talk to me about all the relationships he had, etc., etc. I would talk to him about me being married and going through a divorce and all the shitty stuff that I went through. So basically, it was good. But, and basically you're all wondering, okay, Silky, what the fuck is the problem then? Where's the problem? I'm coming to that. So, almost 3 years pass in this way and we're getting to be good friends. Brother, sister, or sister, sister, as I called him a sister. But then I started to know, as we would, one thing more, we would chat on the computer. But the thing I've noticed that he would always say that his webcam was broken or there was something wrong, etc., etc. I didn't really care at the time. I'm like, if I can hear your voice, then that's good enough for me. And it's relatively cheaper than calling on the phone. So we chatted through Facebook chat, and I would only see a black screen. I wouldn't actually see his face. But he would describe himself as someone 6 feet tall, black eyes, black hair, like that. Aiden said that he had a Finnish inheritance. He came from Finland when he was a little kid with his mom. So anyway, the trouble started. I noticed some things I started to notice, but I was trying to ignore. Like when you're calling someone, for example, on their cell phone, and you get their voicemail, you usually leave one message or a text, etc., and then you leave it alone and wait for them to call you. But Aiden would leave 10 voicemails, 10 texts, 20 to 30 missed calls per day. I'm not kidding. And me being a fool at the time, I just ignored it. I didn't really care. I mean, he would call, his once phone call every few days started to become a redundant thing almost every day. I mean, it was really getting annoying, but I don't know, I guess it's my Middle Eastern heritage where you're learned when you're brainwashed to tolerate things. So I thought, well, friendship has ups and downs and craziness, and you have to learn to tolerate things and look at the bigger picture. Couldn't see the forest for the trees. But I was tolerating that. But the one thing that started to make me feel that our relationship as a brother-sister getting rocky was that when I was talking to him about... Aw, crap, not again. Okay, when I was talking to him, I was really upset because my ex-husband and I were going into a custody battle. I didn't know it was going to happen. The laws had changed. They weren't going to deport him. They were going to make him stay, and I was afraid that he would try to do something crazy. So while I was talking to somebody about my neighbor, my childhood neighbor who lives next door to me, through the messages, Aiden kept sending me really silly messages that were totally not appropriate for what was going on. I kept explaining to him between sentences that, Aiden, I'm really upset right now. I'm going through a custody battle. Please lay off the jokes. I beg you. But he just kept going. He just kept saying stupid things regarding unicorn farts, fucking glitter, and although normally I'd find that funny, I mean, I would, but not when you're going through a custody battle and everyone knows divorce feels like death. So, and I'm like, I told him, you know, you're really starting to make me angry through the text. I'm sorry, through the Facebook chat. You're really starting to make me angry now because I don't know whether I'm going to see my kid again. And you're talking about uniform farts. And then he's telling me to stop being a whiny complainer about it. And I'm like, is your account hacked? And he's like, no. So I asked him a personal question regarding his grandma just to make sure. And he answered it rightly, so I knew it was him. And I got so pissed off and I said, you know something? You're a complete asshole right now. Don't fucking talk to me. And then I just took him off my friend list. He kept calling and calling for days on end. I was so angry. I didn't want to talk to him. I didn't want to talk to him because I just felt that was so fucking rude. so fucking insensitive. The boy was like 20. He wasn't 13. He wasn't 14. He wasn't even 15. He was 20. He knew perfectly well. He had enough sense to know that when someone tells you stop joking, we're in a very serious matter, fucking do it. But I talked to this with my mother one time, and she's like, "Oh, Reshmi, come on, forgive. You've been friends with your brother for 3 years. Don't do that." And so finally, when he called, he kept apologizing, etc., etc. I mean, well, actually, I'm sorry, I forgot one other detail. He kept saying that, "Silky, if you don't add me back, I'm gonna tell everybody to unfriend you." And I'm like, really? And I'm like, just for saying that, I'm gonna keep you off for another 7 days, 8 days, and let's see how you feel about that. And then after that, he started apologizing, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry," etc., etc. And finally, I decided to forgive. As stupid as it may seem, I did forgive. And then, later on, like maybe a month later after that, he was asking for my home address because he wanted to send me a gift of eyeshadows and makeups, various makeups. Because I didn't feel comfortable giving anyone my home address on Facebook, particularly a guy, gay or not. I just said, I'll make a P.O. box address and then I'll let you know. And that was it. It didn't proceed on further than that. He would then, and then after that, things were relatively normal between him and I. But the constant texting, the constant phone calling when I didn't feel like talking, the constant voicemails was just getting on my fucking nerves, I tell you. I was really trying hard to be tolerant. I was really trying hard to be that good, loyal friend everyone hears about that hardly exists anymore. I really tried. But deep down, I had a funny feeling that, Silky, this is going to end, isn't it? But I kept brushing that back of my mind, saying, Silky, don't think like that. Don't be a tyrant. So anyway. Several more months pass by. And I kind of notice he starts getting uppity or edgy. I don't know why. He just is. I mean, for example, like I was studying for my examination in becoming a nurse's aide, and during my I think during my actual exam, luckily I put the phone on vibrate, but it was a pretty loud vibrate. The phone started vibrating off, and everyone was kind of giving me that look, so I quickly turned the phone off, and that was it. And then when it was time for us to leave the building, when it was time to go home, I looked and it was him. This computer does this one more time. I'm going to freak. Anyway, my computer goes into password mode automatically. I'm sorry. So I looked at him. I looked at the phone, and he's like, and then the same voicemail. Reshmi, where are you? Where are you? And then I'm like, I call him back and I say, Aiden, I was taking an exam, blah 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 blah. And he's like, oh, sorry, blah 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 blah. And then he starts talking about, oh, do you know what Lady Gaga did, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, honey, not right now. I'm really tired. I gotta go prepare for my practical portion of the exam. In that portion, we have to clean patients and spoon feed them food. But then he was all like saying, you're getting really uppity. And I'm like, I'm not getting uppity. I'm actually very tired and exhausted. I've been in this building since 5 a.m. I'm not uppity. I'm just tired because I'm working to get a job, dear. And that doesn't bring out the best in people. You have to understand that. I felt like a mother talking to us like a exceptionally insensitive, stupid child. But Aiden just kept pushing and saying, no, you're being uppity, and you're being uppity. And then finally, thank God I wasn't in the building. I was like maybe 20 feet away from the door out where the car was, and nobody was around. I just screamed, shut up! I just screamed, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. Shut the fuck up. And then I hung up the phone. Oh. It is one thing to tolerate someone's immaturity for 3 fucking years without even so much as raising your voice, but when you just get so pissed off to the point where they're not smart enough to know that you're tired and you're trying to rest, oh. Then a few hours later, he calls back again, and I just ignore him. And then I'm thinking to myself, Silky, this is gonna end, isn't it? And then I'm like nodding to myself, yes, it's gonna end. When? I had to make the decision. So, when he called, I apologized to him. I said, I'm sorry that I raised my voice at you. I shouldn't have. That was an overreaction. But you really need to understand that you cannot curse somebody's out for being tired when they had no energy or whatever. And then he said, fine. Well, you would think that that was the straw that would break the camel's back. I was trying to debate in my mind with Aiden at the time. About Aiden at the time. Okay, when is the best time to break out off with him? And how do I do it? At that time, I was just making bitstrip photos on Facebook. And by chance, I didn't make him one. And then he goes into my inbox and says, "Oh, you aren't tagging me in photos anymore. You're not making bitstrip photos." And I'm like, I don't really make bitstrip for anyone that much, you know. He's like, you can do it as a friend. Have some consideration for me. Or, out of my dark heart, I have an alter ego, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, so I just quickly make him something, and then I say, with the full intent, knowing that it's going to end today. I said, look, Aiden, here you go. You need to understand that you have to control that alter ego. Because this world is not going to take an alter ego as an excuse. The world is going to rip you apart, and they're not going to care what problems you have. Just remember that. Then, a few hours later, this took place in November 2013, I believe. Just a couple of months ago. I blocked him, and then, well, before blocking him, I wrote him a long letter explaining to him why I did that. At least give him an explanation before I go. I said to him, Aiden, by the time you read this, I will have already blocked you. You would have already been gone from my friend list. We've had good times together and we shared a lot, but it's really time to go our separate ways. You're just suffocating me. You're being mentally unstable. I mean, in the beginning you were a great person, but now as I'm coming to see, you're becoming so childish and intolerant. You seriously need help. You need therapy. Your explosions are highly uncalled for, and your logic is so irrational that it's not normal for a person who's 20 years old to act like this. I know you'll think me selfish for not actually calling you and telling you, but I have a funny feeling that if I were to say that to you on the phone, you would try to make me change my mind. Basically, that was it. It was a much longer letter than that, but I'm just telling you the main points. I told him that try to be more self-sufficient, try to be more independent. I should also add that other people would not run from you if you did not try to get yourself so attached to them. You need to let people breathe. He would constantly complain in the past that he'd be calling everybody and everyone be ignoring him. You're suffocating people. And this is what caused people to run. They tend to think that you're clingy or you have no confidence or that you're desperate. Yes, in a friendship you can look desperate. And that's not good. You need to have confidence in yourself, and you need to be a bit more self-sufficient and independent. That's what brings people to come closer to you rather than far. Call me a coward, call me a bitch, call me whatever. Think whatever you want of me. But the point is, I'm not happy in this relationship. And when one or two people aren't happy in a relationship, it falls apart. That was it. Well, I thought it would be the end of that. But no, it wasn't. I had to talk to his mama. Mary was her name. God, I mean that if I ever heard any more of a trashy red excuse my French, trashy accent, I was almost gonna say something else, but I don't want to be racist. Trashy accent, trailer park accent, and that was it. She didn't even sound particularly Finnish. So she called me, and I answered the phone, and she asked if I were Silky, and I'm like, "This is she," and she's like, "I'm Aiden's mom," and I'm like, "Oh, what can I do for you?" She just she just goes off at me, saying that how her son is mentally unstable, etc., etc., that her son has special needs, and I'm like, "You just continue explaining to me and let me listen to you." So she goes on and on saying that how Aiden said that I was constantly asking him to call, that he turned everything around. He said that I was the one constantly calling him and leaving him messages. I was the one asking him to make bitstrip photos. I was the one tagging him in all these photos, blah, blah, blah. Basically, all the stuff he was doing to me. And I'm like, anything else? And she's like, no, that's just about it. And I'm like, well, that's very interesting considering the fact that all the things you just mentioned is technically the opposite. It was he who actually made me do all those things. And all of a sudden now he's flipping the whole thing around. And then she proceeds to calling me a bitch and this and that and this and that. And I'm like, were you 13 when you had him? Because you don't really sound educated and you don't really sound that you're well mannered. I can see why your husband left you. I mean, if I were a man, I'd leave you too. And then she started saying, "Oh, did you come here legally, blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, "Well, I hear you're from Finland. Are you here legally?" And she's like, "Oh, yeah." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know that. Do me a favor, send me your papers. And if I'm satisfied with them, I'll send you mine. And then we both will be even Steven." And then I basically shut her up and explained to her that, look, if your son has mental issues, he shouldn't be on Facebook. He should be with a doctor. Dr. Phil, I don't care. He should be getting special psychiatric help. He shouldn't be talking to regular people until he's mentally competent to cope with the regular struggles of life. And if he was mentally incompetent, as you say, he wouldn't be able to justify himself so well as he's spoken to me before. And this accusation he told her, that she told me that I told him to kill himself. I said, "Can you show me in that letter where I said that? I can even screenshot the letter and show it to you." She didn't have an answer for that. And I'm like, you need to understand that he's 20 years old. He's basically 20 years old, and you're using mentally challenged thing as an excuse. You are basically using that as an excuse so he won't get in trouble, or you're basically looking for a finger to point so you can get money off of me. It's not going to work. Adults are going to fight, and adults are going to make up. In this case, we fought a lot. Well, he fought. I just sat through it all. And, well, basically, we made up. But I'm the one who chose to end it. It is my choice. I do not have to continue a friendship if I'm not personally satisfied. Then what? Plenty of friendships break every single day. He can just get a new person and replace me. Lickety split. It's Facebook. It's not real life. He can just get somebody else. No big deal. You're the one who's making a big issue out of it. And how old is he? 20? 21? He should be talking to me. You shouldn't be having to. I'm not getting my elders to talk to you about it. This is between him and I. You don't have a right to interfere. He's over 18. He's an adult. And that was basically it. Hung up on her, and that was it. And then, after that, I started getting anonymous phone calls from a blocked number. I could tell it was him from the way he was breathing. Oh, one thing I should add before I end this up. I did see his face. His actual face on the webcam, as you can see. I'm not gonna lie, he is the same person in his photos. He is. I will give him credit for that. But the thing is, those photos must have been taken a year ago or so, because he doesn't look the same size. His face, because with my webcam, when I expand the screen, you can see the person on the other side in a garbled form. But his was relatively clear. Oh my God. I mean, I'm not trying to be rude, and I have no right to pick on anyone considering the fact that I'm not a slender woman, but he did not look like he did when he in his photos. His face, which was like my size, it went from here to here, like round and inflamed. And his fingers, which were in gloves, were like big, each were like white colored sausages. I mean, and he was wearing dark glasses. And his lips were so pouty. Now, I didn't say anything about it, nor did I ever tell him I saw it, because I didn't want to be superficial or cruel. But I thought to myself, this is kind of not a 100% proper presentation. But I decided to say nothing because friends do not pick on those type of things. He continued to call me, so I had my number changed. That was it. I have to assume that he tried to friend me on Facebook again through a different account, but I don't accept people as much as anymore. It depends on who they are. It depends on their profile, their gender, how they present themselves, etc., etc. This one person who had no picture or no had a picture of an old woman named Mary Bowlers or something tried to friend me, and then the picture just seemed kind of odd, so I googled it. There was 5, 6 pictures of the same lady with different names. So I'm like, hey, did you know that you have this picture has 5 different accounts with 5 different names? The person did not reply. And then I said, and then after like a couple of days, I wrote back and said, nice try, Aiden. And then a few hours later, the person blocked me. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to know who was. I'm sorry. So basically, this was my version of a catfish story, if you can call it that. For all those who are watching, I'm not against, just to make it clear, I'm not against gays, lesbians, transgenders, pansexuals. I'm not. I support them 100%, so please get that out of your head. And secondly, I want to know is that why was his behavior so strange? He said he was gay, but the thing is, why did he continuously try to cling? Was he actually bisexual, just pretending to dislike girls in order to hang on? Or was he just extremely possessive? Sometimes I think he just faked being gay because he just wasn't really good with girls. Sometimes I got that suspicion because he would constantly say, oh, I think girls are gross, blah, 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 in the intimate sense. And I never really thought much about it, but I often believe that when you constantly proclaim when you hate something again and again and again, it can be reverse psychology when you're actually trying to say I like something. Because people, like the grapes are sour, the fox jumped at the bunch of grapes from the tree and he couldn't reach it. So the fox said, those grapes are probably sour, I don't want them anyway. People often pretend to dislike what they can't get. It could have been. I discussed with a personal friend about this, and she feels that he was just pretending to be gay to get close to me or whatever. To this day, I never know, and I don't really care to know. Anyhow, this was my personal catfish story. Something of a catfish. In a sense, because his face did not look like what his picture did. His picture was obviously a couple of years outdated. And he was rather a stalker. So, this is basically my story. I thought I'd give my input because it's happened to me, it's happening to other people out there, and hopefully this will make people be more aware of who they friend or who they choose not to friend. Couple of tips before I add. Number 1, when you see a person's friendship request, always scope out their profile. I mean, be very careful. I mean, when you look at their, like, what are they interested in, if it's of a clean content or a dirty content, look at their picture. If you feel something is like it's too professional looking, take their picture and upload it to googleimages.com, and from there you will see whether or not there are other pictures mimicking it or not. Go with your gut. If you feel something is too good to be true or something just feels really creepy, go with it. Um, if someone is like constantly messaging you, constantly liking everything you are, adding all the people you are being friends with, because that's one thing he did. He added every single friend I had, and I found that like so annoying. I had to warn all my Facebook buddies about it too. And that's a red flag. Anyhow, I hope you I hope you I hope you learned something from this story, and God willing, inshallah. Until next time.